That's the COVID. Wow. We graduated during COVID.
Click on home. Yeah. There we go.
There it is. So we can see the chat.
Wait. So why'd you guys not just do it physical? Hold on. Wait. Well, there was a hurricane that pushed back shell hacks. 2017. There was a pandemic? Wow, I didn't even know. Really? I was. I didn't realize that. That was my freshman. They just don't show up every time you do it. That's right.
All right, it's 4 o'clock, but we're gonna start at 4:05, guys.
Right, that's the problem. Because there was like this event also in New York that I went to, where a lot of people were like, oh, why are you not head there? And we're all like, because alcohol is inclusive. That's not inclusive. What? That's not inclusive. I didn't even know about that. I never knew that. Yeah.
Because it was you?
But it's so much better in person. You tried it. It's like, what's different is I can talk to you, her.
How did I not know about that?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he was in the. No, I think they came from the bank, and then they went there, and then he was like got robbed. I think that was a drug deal. I really think that's what that was. And he like, oh man, I'll give it to
So
you.
you haven't even,
And he never gave me the drug deal.
you haven't even
Which I
finished.
think is stupid.
You
I
already
think you
asked.
should, if you're gonna buy something, make sure they actually have it to give
Yeah.
to you.
It's like no thing.
You remember last week?
That sucks.
The guy got robbed in PG6,
Yeah.
and he tried to hang on to the car, and he was like,
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember the video. Yeah.
yeah,
Yo, lads,
that was
do you have VS Code?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Huh?
Do you want to check if there's like something private open for you?
No, there shouldn't be.
Yeah. Only in person.
Oh yeah, I want to finish it.
So, cause
Wait,
that's how I use
No,
it.
2020.
I go
There
to
you go.
events in New York for the same crypto. I just want to do the same thing cool. So over there, it's all in person. You know how far
You're in your.
I have to go? I have to wait. Like one day, every Sunday.
Oh, okay, so you are in junior. Okay.
Yep. Exactly. And
I
everybody in
thought
there
that
is like
for a moment there,
super tight.
but okay. No, of course you would come to that FIU. We did the shell hacks volunteering. Yeah. Briefly. I remember we ate cookies. There was like a cookie sandwich.
Yeah.
Yo, Ala, do you have the
Ice
link?
cream sandwiches, yes. I remember those. And they had a girl.
She was.
They were doing some. They were meeting the people volunteering, and they were just Will. It was a Will or something. Will and. Yeah, I didn't see it, but then I heard about it after. No, yeah.
So how do you
That
guys
is
announce
true.
the
You know, but my favorite part was hip hop night.
Okay.
Nah, I love hip hop night.
Okay.
And shell hacks is first.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
They could have. I mean, like this. This is not going away. This is not going
Oh,
away.
you're fine with it.
This is ridiculous, right? Yeah. So.
That was a problem.
And it acts like the flu.
Oh, you're
Like
good.
in the winter. And that's when it goes up. And then every other time.
Yeah, I know I'm live. Why?
Not like start whenever you want.
Yeah, I know. I was just waiting till 4:05
Okay.
for people to go from the Zoom to the YouTube. Oh, all right, guys, we're starting. So, all right, settle down, guys, please. All right, so welcome to this intro to Django workshop. I'm gonna be sitting down so the people in the live stream can hear me, but I'm over here if you can't see me. My name is David Yanyo. I am the AI lead at Google Developer Student Clubs. It's kind of weird an AI guy is doing a web dev thing, but trust me, I know my stuff. So let's get started. Right, so what are we gonna be doing today? We're gonna be going over what's a website, what's Django. We're gonna be installing and using Django to create this polls app. This is actually the tutorial for Django. It's kind of hard if you're new to Django, so I'm just gonna walk you through it. We're gonna go into the structure of a Django website, deploying the website. I'm just gonna be, for the purpose of not going over time, I'm just gonna describe the process. So what is a website? Let's get some common ground here. It's a collection of web pages and related content that is identified by a common domain name and published on at least one web server. So what do they mean by web pages here? It's HTML, CSS, JavaScript pages. And this is what's called the front end, which is what you're going to be seeing on the website. And you've probably heard about the term back end as well. So the back end is basically how those pages are connected, the database that your information is going to, and more stuff like authentication and all that. We're going to be doing that as well. What is Django? It's an open source web framework for Python. It's pretty easy to use and it comes with a lot of stuff out of the box, kind of like React but with Python. So let's get into it. First, we're going to be installing Django. All right. First, you're going to open up, if you're on Windows, you're going to open up Command Prompt. Yeah. Can they?
Yeah, no. Zoom's pretty damn sure. That might fix it.
All right. So let's go into. All right, so if you're on Windows, I know this is gonna be tough because I'm using Mac. Go to your desktop on your Windows and create a folder called Django Project or Django Workshop or something like that. I'm gonna do it here on the window on this Mac. So I'm gonna CD into desktop. All right, and I'm gonna make dir. This is also how you would do it if you're on Linux. Right. And if you're on Windows, right now you're on Command Prompt and you need a CD into your folder that you just made. It should be blank like this. All right, is anyone having problems right now? Is anyone on the live stream having problems right now? I know there's kind of a disconnect here with Windows and Mac. Is everyone good? Live stream? All right. So let's move on. If you haven't already, you're going to pip install virtual env. I'm assuming you already have Python installed here. Pip install virtual env. Oops. My bad. Pip install virtual env. I already have it installed here, so it's probably gonna be different for you. Virtual env. and then you're gonna use the virtual env to create a virtual environment. And what this is a special space that Python creates where it's kind of, it duplicates itself into a folder with a new pip. And in this environment, you can basically install all the stuff you need for your project using pip. And it's a separate environment that you can just delete afterwards if you want. And I really recommend using virtual environments when you're doing projects, especially something like this. All right, so you're gonna create virtual env. And if you list out what's in the directory using ls if you're on Mac or Linux, or on Windows you can use dir, you'll see this new venv folder created. And if you want to list out what's in, you can see what's in it. All right, so now let us create, or let us install Django. Or activate, whoops, let me first activate the environment. Yeah, it's activating. You don't have, all right, this is Mac. Geez. Right. Now it's activated. Right, main folder. Now, if you once you activate it on Windows, you can just go into the VM bin and execute the activate.exe. It should be something like that, and you will activate your virtual environment. And when you put out pip list, you'll see that it's a completely different pip from the one you have in your default environment. So here we'll install Django. I was just making sure. All right, if you go into your pip list again, you'll see that Django's there. All right, any questions up until this point? Is there any, are the Windows people okay right now? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. So first, let's confirm that our Django installed properly. Do you have Python linked to your Python 3.8 or do you have Python 3? Yeah, if you're on Mac and Linux, it might be Python 3 for you.
Yeah, Python 3 for me. Yeah. What's the version?
We're going to run Django as a module, and we're going to see the version 3.2.8. All right. Anyone having troubles right now? Everyone following along? Stream? All right. Let's continue. So now we're going to start our Django project. So we're going to use the Django command line interface, Django admin, and we're going to do the option start project, and we'll name it workshop site. All right. And this will create a folder in our directory, workshop site. And if you list out the contents, you'll see we have a manage.py and another directory for our website. And we can also list out those contents. It has an init.py is jet, don't worry about this. Our settings is going to be our configurations for our project. Our urls.py, which is how we're going to route to different URLs for a website. wsgi.py, don't worry about that. And init.py, that's just going to make sure that Python knows that these three or four files are together. All right. So let's open this up on VS Code. Right. Yo, help me open this up on VS Code. Right. Can you see this go? All right. Let's go into our workshop site folder. So you can see what's up with this. This is our init.py, ASGI. Well, actually, let me not open that so you don't have to worry about it. Our settings, our URLs, and manage.py. This is going to be another command line interface that we're going to be using to do stuff. Right. And as tradition implies, we'll go into our command line again. Make sure you're in the Django workshop folder. Well, actually in the same level as the manage.py that we just made. Oh man, do I have to open it? Let me see if I have to open it. Right, I'm in the same level as manage.py. Now we're going to start our website for the first time on the local server, and this local server is basically on your machine. It's the local port on your machine. Run server. And you can actually go to this website right now. Oops. Ignore that. Copy. Paste, and there you go. your website is officially running on a local server. All right, so for anyone that didn't see it, you're on the same level as the manage.py. You run Python. I should have run Python 3. Python manage.py run server. All right. Anyone does not see this page, okay. Let's actually close it for now. You can do Control-C to stop the server from running. And let's go back into VS Code. Actually, first we need to start our app. So the difference between project and app. Project is, let's say, Facebook, and app is part of that project. An app can be anything from like the home page of a website to like a shopping portion of your website or like a feed, something like that. It's parts. So our part today is going to be same level as manage.py, Python 3, or Python if you're on Windows. Manage.py, start, app, polls. All right, and this is going to give you another folder here on workshop. What happened?
Can we fix something real quick?
Right, this is going to give us another folder here, our polls, and you're going to see the admin, apps, models, our tests, and our views. Right, so first we're going to go into our views, views.py. This is how you're going to show stuff on your website. The views is what's going to render your HTML, CSS, JavaScript pages for everyone to see. So first, actually, let's go here. There's a better way to do this, but I guess this way. All right, so we're going to import HTTP response from Django.http, and we're going to create our first view here, index. And if you're familiar with HTML, index is usually the main one. And if you're just arriving or just getting on the stream, you can actually go back and see the process again. Or you can go to the Django docs and to the tutorial, and you can follow along as well. Alright, so we're going to return an HTTP response. It's going to be hello world. And control save. Right. Anyone need help? Anyone lost stream? Yes, sir.
Start project or start application?
Start, what do you mean?
When you did the manage.py, start project or start app?
When you did no, that was start app.
Okay, thank you.
Let me go back and show you. You're in the same level as the manage.py. You do Python 3 manage.py start app polls.
Oh, you're doing the full thing, good. Thank you.
Right. And just writing the view isn't, so what this is gonna do, it's gonna basically just show hello world on our website once we run the server. So now we actually need to make the URL for it to show. So let's go into, this is in the polls folder. That was in the views. Now we're going to go into URLs on the workshop site folder. Put here on top. We're going to put polls, include polls.url. This is not my VS Code, by the way, so forgive me if I'm going slow. Right, so this is gonna make the main website aware of the URLs in our polls app. And now we need to actually make the URL. It's actually not here, but we'll just make it a new file in our polls folder, urls.py. And here we'll put import path, from dot import views. And with the dot, it's just saying from this same directory import views. And then we're going to put URL patterns. And we're going to go into our views and get our index function. And we're going to give it a name. Standard practice, give these things names. Index. Comment at the end. Save everything. If you need to see it one more time, these are URLs. We made this file, urls.py. All right, any questions on the stream? Anyone lost, need help? All right. Any questions? Looking at the stream one more time. All right, so where are we at right now? So we have a view that's going to put in an HTML response, just hello world, plain text, into our screen. We made the connection from the main site to our polls app so it can get its URLs. And then we made the URL in our polls app so that it can show the HTML response. So at this moment, let's actually go back to our command prompt and run Python 3 manage.py, and let's run the server. No, I have polls.url. Oops, I did a oopsie. I forgot an S. Sorry. All right, let's go back to our website here. Right. So here it is, our hello world. It's gonna be on the main site that I showed -polls. If you want it to be on just the main site, like here, you would go into your VS Code and change it from polls to just blank. So let's just put it as polls for now. All right, so you go polls. Right. So now we have our first view. Now for a polls app, for a poll you need a question and some answers. Now we're going to create the models that are going to go into our database that's going to store these questions and answers. So let's go back into terminal. We'll cancel this server. And first thing we're going to do, we're going to do Python 3, or Python if you're on Windows, Python 3 manage.py migrate. And this is going to put any changes we have on our website and post them to our database, which is not a lot, but this is the initial steps for our database. And Django actually comes with its own database first. It's an SQLite 3 database. If you're actually going to deploy your app or project, you might want to change to either Postgres, MongoDB, or MySQL. We're not going to talk about changing the database, but it's fairly easy. So let's create, well, actually before that, is there any questions, stream or here?
Just here, but are we using any kind of database like SQLite or SQL?
The Django comes with SQLite 3. So if you actually go into the VS Code of your project, you'll see a database down here, SQLite 3. All right. So no questions in the stream. All right. Let's create our first models then. We're going to go into our polls app. We're going to go into our models. We're going to create a class here called question. We're going to inherit from model dot model. And then here we're going to have some values. We're going to have question text. So this is going to be the actual question. Models dot character field. Oops, spelled model wrong. Car field, or character field. And we're going to give it a max length of 200. So this is going to be a string of 200 characters at max. That's going to be our question text. And these fields, there's a lot of fields that you can put in Django. We're just going to have to look up in the documentation for these things. But the most common is usually just a car field. So let's have our publication date. We're going to use a different one now, a date time field. Let's have a description here, date published. And while we're here, let's skip some steps. We're going to string. Right. So there's our first model. It's going to be a question. It's going to have a question text, which is the actual question, and a publication date. And this is going to be stored in our database. And so now let's create another model here. So for our choice, let's have our question. So these questions, they're supposed to have multiple choices, right? So these choices, we're gonna do, we're gonna connect these choices to our question. So we're gonna use a thing called foreign key here to connect the choice model to the question model. And what this onDelete thing means here is that if the question is deleted, all the choices that are connected to that question are deleted as well. So we have our connected question. We're going to have the text for this choice. $200. And we're also going to track the amount of votes on it. All right, and this underscore underscore string underscore underscore, this is just how the object is going to, the object of these classes are going to be represented in our database. So normally it'd be identified by a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but with this we can identify it by the question text. All right, any questions?
So I'm guessing this is all for strings. How will we do it, like for boolean or something? Or is it?
I'm pretty sure there's a field for that. Let me check. Let's say we wanted a featured field. Oh, there it is, Boolean field. And we can put a default, pretty sure. And we can put it as false. But we don't want that, especially not in the choice. We don't want a featured choice here. Maybe in the question. Let's put it in the question. And have that featured. Right. So now we have our models. This is how our data is going to be represented in the database. Now let's actually make sure that the main website knows this app is here. We're going to go into our settings. We're going to be here at install apps. It already has some here. This is just the pre-installed. This is the pre-installed apps. And I'm going to put user-made apps. I'm going to put polls.apps.polls.config. Right. So now you have your model, your models, which is the data that's going to be represented in the database. You've connected your app to the main site here by making it known. Now let's actually have our database know, okay, these are the models that you're going to be taking in. Make sure that you know how you're going to put them in. So let's go into our command prompt or your terminal. You're in this, right now you're in the same level as your manage.py, Python 3, manage.py. And then you're going to put make migrations polls. And it's going to create the structure for our question and our choice in the database. Now we can actually migrate. Bam. So, okay, that's cool and all. We've made our models that are going to go into our database. All right, how do we use them? So Django actually provides a way to use them using the manage.py shell. You can do Python 3 manage .py and shell. This is going to create a Python shell with a Django environment, and you can actually interact with your database here, create the questions and choices. So let's do that by importing first our models. All right. And here we're going to actually query, which is request all the models that are questions, or all the questions that are in our database right now. And it's actually going to show up as we don't have anything right now. So let's actually make some. But first, let me import another thing we need. This time zone, so we can put in a date with our question. And let's create our first question here. And these parameters are the name of our variables, by the way. Right, so we've made our first question object. Let's save it. And check out the ID. Now this is ID 1 in our database. And we can check out different aspects of it as well. Question text is our string, first question, and the publication date. And you can save these, but I'm not, so let's go and exit for now. Going back to VS Code, we can actually go into our models and create more complex representations of our objects. For example, if you want to know, when you want to query these questions, you want to know if it was published recently, you can create a function in this model. Was published recently. You can check if the pub date is greater than or equal to the time zone. Dot now minus So now your model or your question object can tell if the question object was published recently. So let's go back to the shell and see this in action. So let's do python manage.shell. Let's import our models, choice, and question. Let's query all the questions we have right now. Oops. Put an S, sorry. And there's our question that we saved earlier, our first question. We can actually filter. Another way of looking up or querying your objects is by using the filter function here. Let's say you want to go by the ID. And you'll remember that our first question here has an ID of 1. So if you search by the ID, you can actually find the first question. Another way you can query is by searching for specific stuff inside of a field. So let's say you want to search up for questions that start with first. Shin. Starts with. You can put first. I made a mistake somewhere. Should not be the case. Let me try question text. Oh, I think, you know what? I think I put, yeah. Hold on, I think I put 1 underscore instead of 2. Yeah, Django is like that sometimes. Yeah, there it is. All right. So let's work with the dates now. This is another way. You can use get to get all objects, a list of objects with, let's say, current year, 2021. And we get the first question. But it'll be a list. Now let's get our first object here, our first question. Make sure you got it. Print Q, first question. And now let's ask if Q was published recently. This is the function we made. And we'll see that we get true. This is the boring part, but it's important, trust me. So let's exit and let's continue. Now we're going to create our super user. We're going to actually administrate our website. So make sure you're in the same directory as manage.py, Python 3, manage.py, and you're going to create super user. And you're going to create a username, email address you can leave blank, and a password. For this, I'll just put workshop as a password. Hopefully I wrote that right. All right. And then we can go Python 3, manage.py. I will run our server again. This is a local server. And we can actually go into here and log in to the admin page. With your super user that you just created. This is the easier way of creating your models. I'll shortly add the, actually let me do that right now. Let me add in the right, there's the admin in the polls. And we can add in our models into the admin page. Question, and we can put in choice as well. We'll register our question and choice objects, control save. Oops. And if you refresh, you'll see your polls app, and here are your two models. And if you go into, let me first go into questions here. And you can see a list of all your questions, and here's your first question. And you can see the information on it. And you can delete it, you can change it and add other stuff. You can put in your feature if you want or not. And save. And there you go. You can also add your choices here. You can add a choice. You can link it to the first question. For your choice text, you can put anything. Let's put first choice, and we'll leave it at 0. And there it is. You have a first choice for here. This is the easier way of doing it, but in your views, you're actually going to be using the queries that we were doing in the shell so that you can pass it as context into the page. All right. So let's actually do that. Let's go into the views and we'll create some more pages here. Request is from when the user enters this view. Let's copy and paste it down 2 more times. Let's change the names here. So you're going to have 3 more views here: a detail, a results view, and a vote view. So now let's add this to our URLs. I'll put it on the side here. Wait, this is the wrong URLs. I meant to put this one here. Now we're gonna use a tag here to dynamically put in the question ID of the question you're looking at. To view your looking for, and name. Let's do that 2 more times. And for results, vote. Let's do results and our vote here. All right, and don't forget to save. Right, and now we need to create a HTML template where we're actually going to put this stuff. All right, so it's going to be pretty weird. We're going to create a folder in our polls app, and we're going to call it templates. And now we're going to create another folder in this templates, and we're going to call it polls. It's kind of redundant, but it's how Django wants it. And now let's create a file here, and let's name it index.html. And now in this HTML, we're going to put Django tags. These are special just for Django. It's a not parentheses, a bracket, modulus bracket. And let's have an if statement. Where'd my views go? Oh. Let me modify this index real quick. So this is just going to list out the questions. And remember how I said we're going to query from our views? We're going to order by the publication date. And we're going to get the first 5. This UL tag, this is an HTML tag that basically means unordered list, because we're going to put in the order ourselves with Django, another Django tag, but this time we're going to do a loop, and we're going to loop through the questions in our list that we made over here, latest question list. Oh man. And I just noticed, I think I ran out of time, right? Yeah, so we're going over time. So if you need to go, just go. And you can watch it later. It's a lot. I think I might end it here, if that's the case. So you can see, at least so you can see how you go about and to put in right. So there's our template. Here are our views. And I'm not going to get to writing all the views for these other ones, but let me show you. First, let me Control C. Make migrations, just in case. Let's run our server. Go to our index. It should be polls. Man, don't tell me. Here are questions. All right, I forgot. We need to change it from output to template. right, so we have our question list, we have our template, which we made, and now we're going to create the context based on these things. So let's do this. We're gonna have latest question list with the latest question list here. And now we're going to render this out on the page. Put context. Hold on. Let's request first. And let's see that on the page. And then if you go further, you can actually click on this link and go to the detail view. And once you put in choices, you can look at the votes for those choices. And I'm severely out of time right now, so I'm gonna end the stream here. Sorry I ran over time. It's a lot. Usually people don't really finish the tutorial, and this is the tutorial. So I really encourage you guys to finish it now that you already started it, and really get your hands in Django. Trust me, it gets easier once you know what you're doing. I have till 6?
Now with my computer.
Yeah, now with your computer. I'll end the stream, and then I'll continue using the Django docs. So let me see. All right, bye stream.